Welcome to a special edition preview of The Lost Souls of Honey Island by Marco Milieri with N. Roger McCorkle. Copyright 2026. Scene 1. The Prisoner Who Saw the Wind. By morning, the harbor was already awake. Men shouted over the groan of timber and rope. Sailors cursed at stubborn knots. Dock workers bent their backs beneath crates of oil, sacks of grain, bundles of cloth, and jars sealed with wax. The smell of tar, salt, fish, sweat, and animals rose together in the damp air as if the sea itself had opened its mouth and breathed across the stones. The prisoners were brought down under guard. They came in a line, wrists bound, ankles stiff from the night's holding cells. Some stared at the ships with hollow eyes. Some muttered prayers. Some kept their heads low, as if the less they were seen, the longer they might live. Among them walked a small man. He was not young. His body had been weathered by roads, prisons, beatings, hunger, and long arguments in hostile rooms. His shoulders were not broad. His face was not handsome in the way soldiers admired. His eyes, however, were alive. He looked at the harbor as a man looks at a battlefield before the first sword is drawn, not with fear, but with recognition. Beside him walked the physician, quiet and observant, carrying what few things they had been allowed to bring. He watched everything, the set of the sails, the wind pressing against the flags, the soldiers counting prisoners twice, the sailors glancing toward the sky longer than they wish anyone to notice. The older prisoner noticed it too. "The wind is already speaking," he said. The physician looked at him. "And what does it say?" The small man gave the faintest smile. "That men are rarely as in command as they imagine." Ahead of them stood the centurion, an imperial officer assigned to escort the prisoners to the great city of the empire. His armor was practical, not ceremonial. His face was disciplined, but not cruel. He had the look of a man who had seen enough blood not to enjoy it, and enough weakness not to trust it. He studied the prisoners one by one. When his eyes came to the small man, he paused. There was nothing impressive about him at first. No height, no soldier's build, no rich robe, no polished philosopher's stance, only a travel-worn prisoner with scarred hands and steady eyes. "You are the one they spoke of," the centurion said. The prisoner answered plainly, "I'm the one being sent." "To Strength City?" "To the ruler, yes." The centurion narrowed his eyes slightly. Most men would not sound so certain. "Most men are carried by chains," the prisoner said. "I am carried by a promise." One of the soldiers laughed under his breath. The centurion did not. He had heard pieces of the matter already. This prisoner was no murderer, no thief, no rebel with a dagger hidden in his belt. His trouble was stranger than that. He spoke of another kingdom and another king. Not Caesar, not Herod, not any prince born in a palace. A so-called king who had been executed and yet, according to this man, now lived. The anointed one, as the prisoner had put it. Strength City knew what to do with rebels. It was less certain what to do with men who were not afraid of death. The centurion gestured toward the ship. It was not a grand vessel, but a coastal ship preparing to sail northward along the eastern sea routes. Its boards were dark with use. Its ropes were stiff from salt. Its crew moved with the sharp impatience of men who wanted cargo loaded, passengers settled, and harbor fees behind them. The prisoners were herded aboard. The small man stepped carefully onto the deck. For a moment he stopped and looked back towards the land. The physician knew that look. It was not regret. It was farewell, but not the farewell of a man leaving home, more like the farewell of a witness leaving one courtroom for another. "Do you think we will reach Strength quickly?" the physician asked. The older man looked toward the sea. A gull cried overhead. The sound was thin and lonely. "No," he said, "but we will reach it when we must." The physician said nothing else. He had traveled with him long enough to know the difference between guessing and knowing. The soldiers pushed the last prisoners aboard. Chains clinked against wood. A sailor spat into the water and shouted for the gangplank to be drawn. Somewhere below, cargo shifted with a dull thud. The centurion gave the order. Ropes were loosened. The ship leaned, creaked, and began to move. Stones slipped away. The harbor widened. The voices from shore blurred into one long human murmur. Behind them, the imperial city by the sea grew smaller, its walls and roofs fading into the pale morning haze. The small man stood near the rail as the wind touched his face. He had been in storms before. He had been beaten and left for dead. He had been mocked by scholars, hated by rulers, dragged before councils, and locked behind doors. He had learned that the world could bruise a man's body without reaching the place where God had spoken. Still, the sea was different. The sea did not argue. It swallowed. A soldier tugged the chain and motioned him away from the rail. The prisoner obeyed without protest. As he turned, the physician saw the marks on his back where old wounds had healed unevenly beneath his tunic. He saw, too, the calm in his face. It was not the calm of a man who expected comfort. It was, indeed, the calm of a man who had already surrendered the outcome. By noon, land stretched beside them like a fading promise. The ship moved northward, hugging the coast, waiting for the mercy of winds that did not yet seem merciful. Below deck, prisoners settled into their misery. Some cursed the empire, some cursed the sea, some cursed the gods. One wept quietly into his knees. The small man sat with his back against the beam. The physician sat near him. "You should rest," he said. "So should you. I'm not the one in chains." The older prisoner lifted his wrists slightly. "These are not the heaviest chains that men carry." Across from them, a young prisoner looked up. His face was narrow, his beard patchy, his eyes full of fear. "What did you do?" the young man asked. The small man turned to him. "I obeyed." The young prisoner stared, unsure whether this was madness or wisdom. "Obeyed who?" "The God who made heaven and earth." The young man swallowed. "And the empire chains a man for that?" "The empire chains many men for many reasons," he said, "but I belong to another king." The boy lowered his voice. "A king who can help you?" The small man looked toward the narrow strip of light coming through the boards. "He already has." "But you are still a prisoner." "Yes, it would appear that way." "Then what kind of help is that?" The small man smiled, not mockingly, but with sorrow and patience. "The kind that begins where fear ends." The boy had no answer for that. Above them, the sailors shouted. The ship shifted. Wind pressed against the sail, not strongly enough for speed, but enough to make every timber complain. The physician watched the older prisoner close his eyes. His lips moved, but not loudly. He was not performing piety for the frightened men around him. He spoke as a son speaks to a father who is near, though unseen. The physician listened only for a moment, then looked away. Some prayers were not meant to be overheard. By evening, the sea darkened to bronze. The coastline was still visible, a jagged shadow to the east. The air cooled. The soldiers ate first, then the sailors, then the prisoners received what remained. The small man broke his portion and gave half to the young prisoner. "No, you need it," the boy said. "So do you." "I'm afraid I'll die before our destination." The older man studied him. "All men will breathe their final breath sometime. The question is what they are living for before that happens." The boy looked down at the bread. "What do you live for?" The prisoner's answer came quietly. "For the king who came back from the dead." The boy looked at him sharply, as if expecting a joke. There was none. Above, a rope snapped tight in the wind. The ship jolted. A few prisoners groaned, one cursed. The centurion's boots crossed the deck overhead, firm and measured. The small man looked upward. The physician saw it again, that strange attentiveness, as if he were listening not only to wood and water, but to something beneath them both. Night settled in. The ship moved on. Behind them lay the land of hearings, accusations, appeals, and prison rooms. Ahead lay Strength City, though that was still only a pair of words beyond water. Between the two stretched the sea, restless and immense. The men aboard believed they had begun a journey under imperial authority. The soldiers believed they guarded prisoners. The sailors believed they understood the ship. The centurion believed he was responsible for delivering bodies safely to the capital. But the small man knew something that none of them yet understood. The voyage had another captain, and before it was over, every man on that ship would know it too.